Welcome to Washington Hospital Today, dedicated to informing residents about healthcare topics and issues. Through programs featuring community forums and free health and wellness classes, our goal is to empower community members with the information needed to make informed health decisions. Washington Hospital has been providing healthcare to the residents of the Washington Township Healthcare District for the past 60 years. Hello, welcome to today's presentation, Improve Your Balance with Yoga, presented by Shari Gent, yoga instructor with the Washington Hospital Wellness Center. And now, please welcome Shari Gent.
Hi, I'm Shari Gent. I'm a registered yoga instructor with the Yoga Alliance, and I've received special training in medical yoga from the Duke Integrative Medicine Yoga Institute. And I'm here today to talk a little bit about balance. So let's just start by taking a look at a definition of balance. What is balance? And we all kind of take balance for granted. A good medical definition comes from the Vestibular Disorders Association. Balance is the ability to maintain the body's center of mass over its base of support. And a balanced system functions best when it allows humans to see clearly while moving, identify orientation with respect to gravity, determine direction and speed of movement, and make automatic postural adjustments to maintain posture and stability in various conditions and activities. What that all kind of boils down to is the fact that we need to be able to maintain our stability when we're in motion. And that all applies to our physical balance system. Today we're going to be talking about a more integrative definition of balance, which includes physical, mental, and emotional. So I'm going to be referring to the second definition by B. Thompson from his balance exercises. Balance is the ability to remain stable and upright. As I mentioned, our balance is affected by all three areas of our being, our physical, emotional, and mental status at any given moment. In fact, our balance varies depending on whether it's morning or evening, how tired we are, whether we're able to focus mentally. And balance is also associated with anxiety and depression. So people that have anxiety and depression often have issues with balance. We're going to start by doing a quick assessment of our physical balance, and you can do this with a friend. Today we're just going to do this together really quickly. I'm going to read through the directions and then we'll go back and try it together. So what you want to do is recruit a friend to time you, because you're going to be standing with your eyes closed. You want to take your shoes off and be barefooted on a hard floor. We're going to cross our arms across our chest and then close our eyes. We're going to bring our weight into one foot and then gently raise the other, and time how long we can maintain that position without wobbling or opening our eyes. So we're going to get started. I'm just going to count 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000. I'm only going to go up to 5. If you want to take this further, some of you may want to try this again with a friend. So let's get started, just to give you some idea of what kind of balance we all have. So stand with your feet directly underneath your hips and cross your arms in front of your chest and then close your eyes. Bring your weight into one foot and then come up on your knee. Bring your knee up. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 5, 1,000, 6, 1,000. Take your foot down. So that just gives you some idea of how you're doing in terms of your balance age. So if you could hold that for 4 seconds, you're equal to or better than most 70-year-olds. If you notice way down at the bottom, the 28-year-olds, the typical 28-year-old could hold it for 25 to 30 seconds. I'm sorry, yeah, for 28 seconds. The typical 25-year-old could hold it for 28 seconds. So you're going to find that this gauge varies depending on your source. I got this balance age table from the SAVE Institute. You don't take it too seriously because some of the numbers may vary depending on your source. At any rate, the good news is that we can improve our balance. We may not be able, if we're 70, we may not be able to bring our balance down to the level of a 25-year-old, but we can improve our balance so that we are safer when we're moving around in the world. However, I want to mention that there is such a thing as a balance disorder. So if you have any of these symptoms, you may want to consider consulting with your physician before beginning any exercise program. So if you're feeling dizzy, if you have vertigo, which is a sense of the environment spinning around you, you have a reason for concern. If you're falling or feeling as if you might fall, again, that is a concern for you. If you're feeling lightheaded, faint, if your vision is slightly blurred, if you're feeling confused or disoriented, all of these things could be evidence of a medical condition that needs to be treated by a physician. So you want to get your clearance from a physician before you begin any exercise program. So briefly, there are 3 components of physical balance, and it helps to be aware of those as you do some of the yoga exercises that we're going to be doing. The first one is a sense of touch, which involves not just touch of our hand, but a whole sense of touch within our body. So a sense of our feet on the floor, a sense of where our knees are in relation to our ankles, a sense of our posture, where our hands are. That is called the proprioceptive system. Secondly, the visual system. In yoga, we use our eyes a lot, and also in any athletic activity, we often use our eyes. In particular, the vestibular ocular reflex, which allows our gaze to remain steady, even if we're moving. So, like in ballet, a ballet dancer will keep his or her eyes focused on one point on the wall as they're spinning very quickly in order to maintain their balance. In yoga, we have something called the drishti, where we focus our eyes on one point on the floor. Generally, the floor is a good place to start, and as your balance improves, you can bring your gaze up. And finally, we have the sense of sound, or the hearing system, really is more what we're referring to, and that is our vestibular system. And what occurs in our inner ear contributes to our awareness of equilibrium and motion. So why should we be doing yoga to help with balance? Well, first of all, the research shows that yoga increases blood flow to our muscles, which helps us to build strength. Secondly, it improves our posture. And third, it actually does improve our proprioceptive system and helps us focus. In fact, they're using yoga with children who have ADHD to help them learn to focus better in school. In addition, yoga is a great tension reliever to support our emotional stability and well-being. And we're going to do some poses in each of these areas to help you see how yoga can contribute to your balance health. We're going to be looking at 6 types of yoga poses to support balance. And I'm going to go through each one of these categories and the poses and walk you through the poses in them. So you could come back later and use this as a beginning balance practice for yourself if you choose. Rule number 1 for yoga is do no harm. So I'm going to be showing you ways to modify poses, ways to back off, ways to be considerate of your body. So anytime you feel pain in a yoga pose, or if it feels like you're overstretching, by all means stop and reevaluate where you are. And you can back off by using props, or simply doing part of the pose, or just backing off in terms of your energy. Today, I brought a number of yoga props with me. Of course, as a yoga teacher, I have all the props. And here at Washington Hospital, I believe we have a lot of props available. But you may want to get some props at home. They're available at Amazon.com for a very reasonable price, or Target or Walmart. And they can go on up to very technical and expensive yoga props. So first of all, we have here our bolster, and I'm going to demonstrate how that can be used to support your body. And then we have the famous yoga blocks, which can be used on 3 levels: tall, medium, or low. And a yoga strap that's often used to help with stretching. And the yoga blanket. Now, I also include in my kit, and when I'm teaching online and other places, the use of a towel. A towel is really helpful if you don't have all of this equipment available. And you can use a towel in a couple of different ways. One, you can fold it so that it bundles up like this, in half again, and roll it up like a burrito. And it can substitute for a block. It's got a lot of different dimensions, like a block does, or for a blanket. Secondly, if you don't happen to have a strap, you can use a belt, you can use a dog leash. Any of those things work. But if all you have is your towel, you can just spin it around till it's taut, and use your towel for stretching exercises or for whatever you're going to do that you would use a strap for. Okay, so we're going to get started with pranayama, which is deep breathing. And a couple of things about breath and yoga. Generally, with yoga, we coordinate our breathing with our movements. And an in-breath tends to be energizing, while an out-breath tends to be relaxing. So the in-breath stimulates our parasympathetic nervous system, and the out-breath stimulates our sympathetic nervous system, and our out-breath stimulates our parasympathetic nervous system. So we're going to practice several different ways to breathe. In yoga, we generally consider that the breath has 4 parts. So we have the pause before we begin breathing. We have the in-breath. We have a pause, really, if you pay attention to it, before you breathe out. And then we have the out-breath. We're going to focus on just 2 of those parts and practice pranayama. To start, we're going to practice stimulating our energy by stimulating the sympathetic nervous system. And I often use this breathing to help my classes build up energy to engage in yoga poses, or at the end of class to relax and let go of the energy buildup that they've experienced. I'd like to just try a little bit of breathing with you. So if you can sit in a comfortable position on the chair, if you would like, you can sit on the floor or the mat. And if you're sitting on the mat, you're going to sit in Sukhasana with one leg in front of the other, cross-legged, and your hands on your thighs. And we're going to begin by breathing in for energy. So we're going to breathe in to the count of 6, and we're going to exhale to the count of 4. Let's try it. See if you can get in touch with how this type of breathing makes you feel. So close your eyes, and we're going to begin breathing. Breathing in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathing in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now just sit and see if you can feel that effect on your body and the benefit of that deep breathing. So now we're going to stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system, where we're going to be using a relaxing breath. And see if you can feel the difference between the two. Now notice our in-breath and our inhale and our exhale are going to be the same length. They're going to be a different length of time, but we're going to still take in the same amount of air that we're letting out. Okay, so this time we're going to breathe in to the count of 4, and we're going to exhale to the count of 6. So close your eyes, get relaxed, and here we go. Breathing in, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now just sit with that for a minute. You're going to feel a lot of energy at the top of your head. You may feel a little dizzy, so you want to just sit for a minute and feel the benefits of all that oxygen in your system. Okay, so I hope you could feel the difference between the energizing breath and the calming breath. We're going to move into the first category of poses, which are the grounding poses. And the first pose is mountain pose, which is a grounding pose that you do before a lot of movement poses. And you're going to start by having your feet directly underneath your hips. Imagine that you're a puppet on a string and your legs are just falling right from your hip bones. Take your hands to your sides and relax. Roll your shoulders back and down. Stand tall. This is mountain pose or Tadasana. Now for some people it's not appropriate to stand in mountain pose. They might want to do mountain pose in a chair, and in which case their feet are going to be flat on the floor, again hip distance apart, resting your hands on your thighs or by your sides, and roll your shoulders back, pressing against the chair, relaxing against the chair, and just breathe normally. Tadasana. So this is a grounding pose. It brings to mind where your feet are in contact with the earth. You want to feel your sits bones on the chair, where the back of your back touches the chair. All of those things, points of contact, weight, and earthiness. Another grounding pose that we typically do at the end of a yoga practice is corpse pose or Shavasana. And generally that's done on the ground in a lying down position. And today I'm going to show you a way to use a bolster to make Shavasana super comfortable and back healthy. So you're going to lie down on your yoga mat or on the floor. Take your hands next to your hips. And in your typical Shavasana, we usually straighten our feet out and just let our feet fall to either side. But today we're going to keep our knees bent and take a bolster underneath your knees. And what that does is generally we have a curve in our lower back, but with our knees supported, it allows our low back to relax on the mat. If you don't have a bolster, you can take your towel and roll it up into like a burrito, or you can use a blanket, any kind of a blanket. Doesn't have to be a yoga blanket. And you can set that under your knees as well. Shavasana, or corpse pose. And on the chair, corpse pose is very similar to Tadasana. It's just your basic sitting pose on the chair with your feet on the floor. Be sure your feet are flat on the floor. Now, some people's feet don't reach the floor on a particular chair. In that case, you want to put something underneath your feet or get a shorter chair. So, not for me, I have long legs, but some people may need to support their feet either with a pillow or with blocks. Not having your feet on the floor has a big effect on your balance. So you can't really feel stable unless your feet are grounded. And our next category of pose is a heart opener or chest opener, which is more related to emotional balance and emotional well-being, relaxing your emotions and relieving tension. And today we're going to do bridge pose, and I'm going to demonstrate bridge pose on the floor and on the chair. So coming down to the floor, I'm going to grab one of my yoga blocks. And notice that a yoga block can have 3 heights. You can use the tall height, the medium height, or the flat height. And you're going to come down into that same position you were in with corpse pose. Walk your heels toward your tailbone. Take your hands next to your hips, and then press into your feet, lifting your sacrum, lifting your tailbone up, and setting the yoga block right underneath your sacrum. So you don't want the block in your low back, and you don't want it down here on your thighs. You're going to want it right across that area that's between your glutes and your low back, which is called your sacrum, right where your tailbone is, just above your tailbone. We generally hold yoga poses for about 6 to 8 breaths. And that gives us time for our body to adjust. So we're just going to, today we'll demonstrate bridge pose, breathing in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you're going to press into your feet, lift your tailbone up, remove the block, and slowly bring your back down to the mat with control, vertebrae by vertebrae. Feel each vertebrae as it comes down onto the mat. And this is not necessarily a class in standing up, but I'd like to show you the proper way to stand up from lying down that will help your balance. Is rolling over onto your side, press into the floor, and come up to a seated position. Now we're going to do bridge pose on the chair, which is actually quite possible. So I'm going to come into my resting pose on the chair, take my hands to the back of the seat area with my elbows bent, and then press my chest forward. Now you may be tempted to drop your head back. That's okay if you have a healthy neck, but it can cause strain on your cervical spine, so consider whether you want to do that and if your spine is healthy enough to handle that. It's perfectly fine just to keep your gaze straight forward, and that you can still arch your back and get a good stretch in your back. We're going to move on to to some strengthening poses. One strengthening pose that we can do that is very strengthening emotionally as well as physically are the warrior poses. And today I'm going to demonstrate Warrior One using the chair and not using the chair, so that if it's uncomfortable for you in standing, you can also use the chair to help support your balance. So coming up to the front of your mat, come into Tadasana with your feet directly underneath your hips. And classically, we step back with one leg, bending the other knee, and our back foot is at a 45-degree angle. And then in most yoga classes, you're going to find the instruction to turn your hips forward and also check your knee to be sure that it's not wobbling to one side or the other. This is a perfectly fine pose if it's natural for your body. But what I find in a lot of the classes that I teach is this is really a strain to twist your hips forward. And in many cases, it's perfectly fine just to leave your hips open. And then you're going to bring your arms up overhead. And if you want to challenge your balance, take it a little step further, you can bring your gaze up to the ceiling. And again, taking care about your cervical spine. If you really are just starting in yoga, you may want to consider using a chair or the wall as a support for Warrior One. So once again, if you're using the chair, you can rest your hands fully on the chair and step back. Again, take care not to force your hips into an unnatural, painful position. Check your knee to be sure it's stable over your ankle. It should be kind of like a Greek column, super strong, supporting your body. And then you can just kind of edge away from the chair, just come up onto the tips of your fingers. You may want to experiment with taking one arm up, or maybe the other arm, and see which arm feels most interesting to you. And finally, maybe you'll be able to take both arms up for a moment and then back down again. Now we're going to do another pose that can be quite challenging from the floor, but it is a great strength builder. This is called plank pose, and it's also kind of a balance pose as well. You take yourself down onto all fours on the floor, and then I'm going to step back with my right foot. My arms are directly below my shoulders. My wrists are at a 90-degree angle, and I'm going to press my fingertips into the mat like a suction cup. And then I'm going to take the other foot back and hold this for 6 to 8 breaths. Now, you want to avoid taking your glutes up in the air or bowing your back. Try to stay stiff as a board. And if you find that maybe you need to back off a little bit, drop your knees to the floor. You can hold the same pose with your knees to the floor. For people that have wrist issues, like myself, you may want to come down onto your forearms rather than onto your hands, because this reduces the strain on your wrist. And then walk one leg out and the other leg out, and you're in forearm plank. To come out of this, bring one knee in, bring the other knee in, and come all the way up. Moving on to plank on the chair, we're going to turn the chair around and excuse me. Starting in Tadasana, And folding forward from the hips, dropping your hands onto the chair, and then gradually taking your feet out to a place that feels right for you. So the full plank on the chair is like this. You may want to have your feet in a little bit to reduce strain. And of course, you can always drop to your forearms and do forearm plank on the chair as well. And finally, if you want to reduce even more strain on your arms, you can take plank to the wall. So with a wall plank, I'm going to stand arm's length distance from the wall with my hands flat against the wall, and then gradually walk my feet back until I'm in a position where I feel like I'm getting a good stretch and challenge to my balance, but I'm not ready to fall over. So in this case, I need to walk my hands down a little bit further so they're directly, as I walk my feet out, my arm position changed. And so this wall plank, the further out your feet are from the wall, the more challenging it is. So if you want to back off, you can come a little bit closer to the wall. And I wanted to show you a few poses that are strictly about balance. And I think you've all seen the famous tree pose, which was the first slide in this presentation. We're going to do something called palm tree. And palm tree is really great for your arches, for your calves, and also for your balance. So the full expression of palm tree is standing in Tadasana, come up on your tiptoes, bringing your arms overhead and taking them back down, making like a big palm branches over your head and all the way down. If you want more challenge, you can come all the way up and all the way down into a squat, staying on your tippy toes, and all the way up again and down. A lot of us are not ready for that. And I think just coming up and down on your ankle, on your arches is really good, because as we get older, our arches tend to fail, our ankles get weaker. So just resting your hands on the chair or against the wall and doing toe lifts is an excellent way to maintain your balance. And then you can play with that, have fun. Take your hands off, leave them on. Take your hands behind you. Just see what you can do and just to play around with your balance in that pose. And the next balance pose we're going to do, we already did, which is stork. So when we did the balance assessment, we did stork pose. And that's a fairly simple pose. Start in Tadasana, which most of these poses start in. Take your hands to your heart. What's interesting is you always feel like, if you try to catch your balance, you take your arms out. Actually, your balance is better the more compact your body is, and the more over your center of gravity your body is. Then we're going to bring our weight into one foot. Take the other foot off the floor, bending our knee, bringing our arms up to the sky if you would like, and taking your hands back to your heart, and then placing your foot on the floor. Stork pose with the chair or wall is very much the same, but you get to use the chair or the wall to assist with your balance. And whenever you use the chair or the wall sideways like this, you want to bring your weight into the outside foot and raise up the inside foot. So whether you're doing stork or tree, any of those poses, your weight's on the outside foot. So for stork, be sure to take your outside hand to your heart. And that will also compact your body so that your center of gravity is all compacted over your hips. So I'm going to bring my weight into my outside foot and raise up my knee. And then again, play with your balance. You can go here, you can stay here, you can go here, turn here. Just have fun with the pose. And then take your foot back down. Our final pose today is a tension reliever, child's pose. And child's pose, again, can be done on the chair or on the floor. So I'm going to grab a block to do child's pose on the floor because it's very helpful. It's a good place to rest your head if you need to. And there are two child's poses. One is regular extended child's pose and then small child's pose. So we're going to come onto our hands and knees. Take your knees out to the edges of your mat and come back and sit on your heel. And then I'm going to walk my hands forward and drop my forehead either on the mat or on the block. So if your forehead is comfortable on the block and you want to take it further, you can take your head all the way down to the mat and feel that stretch in your upper back and your low back and just feel the tension evaporate. It's a great resting pose if you're ever in a regular yoga class and you want to just pause. Everybody understands it when you take child's pose. This, again, is another variation of child's pose. It's small child's pose. So you can take your head down like this. You may want to use a bolster and fold over the bolster. This is a restorative child's pose, which is really, really refreshing. Now, if you're going onto the chair, you can we're going to do small child's pose from the chair. So you're sitting with your knees bent, your feet flat on the floor, and just take your hands by your side and roll forward. Place your hands on your knees as your head comes down, resting in a small ball. So I hope these poses have been helpful for you today. Let's just quickly go over what we've talked about. We came up with several definitions of balance, and we define balance in terms of emotional, mental, and physical aspects of ourselves. We assessed our personal balance. We talked about the components of balance in our body, the various systems, vestibular system, and the sight, sound, and touch aspects of balance. We learned how yoga can be helpful to develop balance. And we experienced 6 types of yoga poses, practiced examples of each. And then we talked about modifications for each pose. And now I'd like to hear from you. Do any of you have any questions?
Thank you, Shari. Excuse me, we do have a couple of questions here. I am not very active. Do I need to do anything to prepare for a yoga class?
Actually, yoga is beginning yoga is a good preparation for more active activities because, as I mentioned before, we're getting the blood flowing through our body. We're beginning to activate our joints, and it's one of the least stressful activities you can do. Another activity that is a good preparation for any type of exercise is spending some time walking. And I guess it's recommended to walk 20 minutes about 3 times a week. That's a good beginning to any exercise program.
Great. So it sounds like yoga would be helpful to loosen my joints if I want to start walking more or running.
Yeah,
Great.
yoga actually gets the synovial fluid to your joints and activates that system so that it improves joint health.
Okay, and then that brings us to our next question. I sometimes have episodes of vertigo. Will these poses help me relieve my symptoms?
You know, actually, I had a friend who had vertigo, and he was doing yoga to improve his balance and to help with the vertigo. And it is possible under a doctor's supervision, to use yoga to help treat vertigo. But what he needed to do was to always be up against a wall, so that if he were to experience that spinning sensation, he had some support for his body. And he was always had a friend practicing with him.
Okay, and our last question, yoga seems very relaxing. Can yoga help me with sleep?
Oh yes, there's actually a whole branch of yoga called Yoga Nidra. And there are some special poses for sleep. I think even if you did some of the balance poses we talked about today, because it's a little bit different than doing yoga before bedtime is a little different than doing vigorous exercise before bedtime, especially if you're doing relaxation type yoga. I would focus on those poses such as child's pose that I showed you today that are tension relievers. And honestly, that's a topic for a whole nother discussion. But if you want to search it out online, check out Yoga Nidra. And there are many other poses that are conducive to sleep.
Okay, this concludes our program. Thank you, Shari, for this insightful presentation. For more information on wellness classes such as yoga, please visit our website at www.whhs.com. The entire broadcast of today's presentation will be available on our Facebook page and YouTube.